paying for paying for the first month of Omega with the venture, we already know is going to be extremely time consuming to get there. So really the best thing we can do for ourselves is having a plan so that once we are Omega, we can maintain it. And by maintaining, I mean we'll be mining to a certain goal every day and trying to be as efficient as possible to get to the actual number we need to just kind of keep it going. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to kind of run through the idea that I have as far as getting there and then maintaining. Now, we've already talked in previous episodes about we're just going to be stockpiling ore. We're going to be utilizing compression to minimize travel and everything like that. And we're essentially going to save up for that first month of Omega before we actually pull the trigger. And the other thing we want to do too is we actually want to be in a position that we are not wasting too much of that first month of Omega still training into a mining ship. Now, that's going to be extremely, if you're sitting there and you're stockpiling SP and stuff like that from daily login, just used towards going towards mining ships, going into like the retriever or the procurer probably at first, it's going to be extremely time consuming. Now, obviously, not everybody. I think if I had to give like the best advice, if you're going to be doing mining long term, I think that if you had to pay for anything for this entire venture, pay for the first month of Omega, but not a full price. And then your goal is to only pay for 1 month of Omega with real money. And then everything after that would have to come from actual activity as far as challenging yourself for that. And the best value you can actually do in terms of just getting off the ground very, very soon would be things like the industrial pack on the Eve store. Now, the industrial pack is going to give you an expert system. It's going to give you 30 days of Omega. It's going to give you some Plex, all that stuff, right? But the reason why buying the industrial pack is actually better than just getting 1 month of Omega if you're going to spend real money is because you can essentially get that industrial pack, starter pack, and get into a procure because they're going to give you the skills with that expert system. So you could essentially get that pack, get Omega, and then get into that procure and start mining straight away, which is value. I'm not sure what we're going to do for this series. I think that it's more beneficial if I can like show the process of actually earning that first month through gameplay. But I think for a lot of people out there, I think I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of grinding, a lot of mining. I mean, we're looking at upwards to, a lot of hours of mining. And it's like, it might take us, and like realistically, it could take you, if you're just, let's say you're just mining at a moderate rate, like you're not even doing that much crazy, like you're doing like 5 hours of mining every day of the month. It could still take you 3 months just to kind of get that first month. A lot of people don't have the patience for that, so that's why I'm going to recommend that if you are going to pay for that first month of Omega to get this operation off the ground, instead of going with just that single month of Omega, go for that industrial pack on there. Get that expert system, get into that procure or the retriever, and we're going to run through all the numbers. Like, we're going to talk in this video about what ships we should be actually focusing on in order to maintain income to pay for our Omega sustainably for the future. As you can see right now, I'm still out here mining, just doing the thing. I was going to talk about the value of compressed ore and stuff like that you can get in the venture and all that stuff. But I think that we're going to change direction, and we're going to talk literally just about like M3 a second and kind of what we can target. Look at a perfect skill, kind of different configurations for ships, and kind of put our sights on where we want to be, what kind of holes and what kind of strip miners we want to use in order to just maintain things. Now, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be essentially speculating on these numbers, but we need to essentially mine about 87 to 88 million worth of ore a day. Now, if we just take that number from Veldspar, we're going to have to mine probably about 750,000 M3 cubic meters a day, and that will actually, the value of that will actually cover Omega if we do that every single day for 28 days. Okay. Now, obviously, there's other factors that come into play where it's like you're gonna get, if you're doing your your career program on this character as well. If you're doing Product Discovery alone will, eventually, when you get to Omega, Product Discovery will eventually take, if you're doing Product Discovery while you're mining, it's going to take 20 million off of that. So you don't actually have to mine 87 or 88 million worth of ore a day. You'd have to only do like 67 to 68, which actually brings us closer to like just of like 500 or half a million cubic meter mark. So we're going to let this guy continue mining. I made a spreadsheet, and we're going to look at this real quick. These are just kind of like by the number kind of things. You won't be able to see my cursor, but yeah, I'm just going to let you guys look at this for the most part. Now, what we're seeing here is we're looking at a configuration field. The HP is basically hardpoint. That is letting us know how many, essentially how many strip miners or lasers can go on that ship. And then these numbers are going to be taking into account by you having essentially mining frigate 5, mining barge 5, exhumer 5, because these are like the kind of numbers we're looking at as far as what we're trying to get into for our sustainable operation. I have this sorted actually for the lowest amount of hours required. So it's no surprise, as you can see at the very top, Mod Mac TA2, which basically means type A2 crystals. You're going to be getting, with Exhumers 5 and Mining Barge 5, you're looking at 29.8 combined cubic meters a second. If our goal is 500 or 750,003 a day, you're looking at about 7 hours of mining. Now, if you're doing Project Discovery and you can actually just kind of take 20 million off of that, you're looking at even less than that. You'd probably be more or less in the 5-hour mark. Below that, you see Mod Ret, so Modified Strip Miner Retriever, which is also using Type 2A. I use Type 2A on all of these just to like have a baseline. It's going to be a little bit lower, and at about 8.5 hours. And then, as you see, we just keep, as we go down this list, you can just, it doesn't really surprise anybody. Very bottom of the list, Miner 2 Venture. Obviously, it's going to take, 24.2 hours. That's with Mining Frigate 5. So we already know, we know that the Venture is not going to be something we can sustain Omega with in the future. It is a valuable tool for us to get started right now, but we definitely have to get up and past that. Even a Miner 2 Endurance would still take 20 hours. And I don't think my main actually has full, I think she has like level 4 of Expeditionary Frigates, but even with an additional level for the Prospector and the Endurance type or Miner 2s, it's not going to be any better. It's not going to move up that list. It's not going to be worthwhile. Having them to do, off, or gas mining or something like that, fine, but I just don't think I'm going to be focusing on Expeditionary Frigates for this series. And then we start getting into actually the exhumer stuff, or the mining barge stuff. So if you just make a procurer with strip 1s, then you're looking at doing it in about 14 hours. And then, the strip 1 skiff and all these ships, all these configurations are using full mining laser upgrade 2s in the lows. So if you're a miner that doesn't like to use all mining laser upgrade 2s in your lows, if you like having mobility or tank or whatever the case may be, then your numbers are going to be a slightly lower. So keep that in mind. But just to give us a baseline, this is kind of what we're looking at. And see, really, and most people don't want to mine for 12 hours. Most people don't want to mine for 10 hours, or even 8 hours. So really, the best we can do to sustain Omega for this mining operation, this mining kind of, life in high sec, we're essentially going to be locked into using modulated strip miner, mackinaw, or retriever, or a skiff. Now, what isn't represented on here is actually the ore hold for each of these ships. The Mod Mac Type 2A is probably what I'm going to end up going into, because that thing is going to be able to stay on grid for a while, which just decreases our overall travel time and everything. So the idea of just taking the Mod Mac out and then just kind of, hanging out till it's completely full and doing that several times a day is probably going to be the easiest, and why I say the most sustainable, because anything else that requires, like even a Mod Pro would be great. It'd be like, 9.7 hours, but like you're going to be coming off grid quite a bit to empty that thing out. This is also, none of these numbers are assuming anything with implants. If you actually added, the reason I didn't add implants into these numbers is because if you do add like an MX1005 that gives you 5% mining yield, it's essentially going to scale every one of these categories. So it doesn't actually really do us a whole lot. But obviously, like if you're stuck down here on like a strip 1 procurer and you do use an MX1005, then you might actually be able to get that closer to maybe like 11 or 12 hours depending. But I figured for this video it'd be kind of interesting to kind of like run these numbers through and get an idea, get a plan. That's really kind of the whole point. Is we want to get to the point where we are not wasting any time on ships that are not necessarily going to help us achieve our goal. And so by running these numbers like this and just looking at everything objectively, I can pretty much say with certainty our goal is going to end up being, once we get Omega, we're going to be going hard and fast towards that our modulated strip miner with type 2A crystals for that mackinaw. We can do a little bit better by having even like mining drones or something in it if we wanted to, if we really wanted to min-max. But that's going to be essentially the goal. Is I haven't decided whether or not if I'm going to like fully earn the first Omega for this series, or if I'm just going to do like I recommended you guys do if you don't want to wait that long to get the industrial pack. I think the industrial pack is actually pretty decent in the fact that you can, kind of get off the ground with your procurer or your retriever pretty soon. You'll still have to be like training the skills for the ship you're already flying just to, kind of keep up with it. And then keep in mind that expert pack that comes with the industrial, you're only going to get access to the mining barges for like 7 days. So with that in mind, if you get that industrial pack, make sure you have the S to get the ship and everything, and just get out there and just start doing it crazy. Because once those 7 days are up, you're going to be kind of back to where you started, and you're going to want to have trained those 7 days towards getting in that ship proper. So you're going to get 30 days of Omega, 150,000 skill points, 100 plex. You're going to get some standing booster. You're going to get a basic cerebral accelerator, and then the mining barge operation expert system, and some skins and stuff like that. And so what I would actually recommend, if you're going to do this for your first month, make sure you have your biology skill as high as possible so that you get the most out of that cerebral accelerator that comes in there. And then also that 150,000 skill points, use that to help get into that retriever, because that's essentially our first tier. That's our first goal. Is once we get that first Omega, if we do the industrial pack, once we're going to get in there, we're going to try to get into that retriever. And then we're going to queue up all the skills required, and we're going to use that 150,000 skill points to make sure we stay in that retriever. And then our next goal is essentially going to be going for the mackinaw. And instead of training for the mod, my mining lasers are off here. But instead of training for, let's say, the modulated strip miners for the retriever, we're probably just going to hold out, and we're not even going to worry about modulated strip miners until we actually get into the mackinaw. Just so, because like strip 1 miners on the mackinaw will be better than mods on the retriever. So we just have to basically prioritize what we're trying to do there. But my rock died right before we like filled up with all this stuff. So, and I was just sitting here yapping. So I started flying off into space here, which is fine. But yeah, I figured I'd want this episode all about the numbers, right? All about just like figuring out what our goal is, figuring out what we need to do, and just kind of setting in. So let me actually know in the comments like what you would actually. I mean, the difference would be is like if the only amount of real money you spend in this whole operation is that $25 for that pack, but then that allows you to get off the ground and get all of your Omega sustained through gameplay after that. It's between doing that, having that initial investment, or waiting 60 to 90 days mining an adventure just to pay for it. And then if you do it that way, you still won't have the expert system, and you'll still actually be in a situation where you'll have 30 days to essentially get into that retriever with strip 1s and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think like if you value your time like I do, I think like the industrial career pack is probably a good investment as far as getting the entire thing off the ground. But next episode we're gonna know for sure. Like either if I'm still alpha in episode 4, then you're gonna be like, okay, well he decided to just go with like 60 to 90 days of just grinding to get it. Or if that episode is we're already in a retriever and we're doing stuff, obviously we chose the other path. But let me know in the comments. I'm interested to see and hear about you guys' opinions on it. But thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.